episode 170. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swig.
How's it going, Dave? Discord almost didn't want us to record today as it kept breaking doing updates, and then yours broke. But it's okay, because I bought a fidget cube, so this has been keeping me occupied while I update everything. I just can't be, expected to be responsible with money and have an Amazon account at the same time.
Yeah, well, whatever gets you through the day, especially since you sit behind a desk now, so you got to do something to burn calories.
Gotta do something, yep.
All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services. If you are listening to us on any of those services, if you could consider subscribing and leaving a like. I'm adjusting levels while I'm doing this. So if you could leave us a review with words, that helps out a lot, as well as sharing the show. That's a big way to help. There's a bunch of stuff linked in the show notes that you can join our community, whether it's Discord, Facebook, Twitter, personal social medias on Twitter. Any of those things, you could definitely just kind of link up with our community and hang out and try to play some games and just be part of the conversation. The Discord kind of got a little lively after my little temper tantrum last week. I'm a person of reality. I believe that companies say a whole bunch of stuff and the whole world tells people exactly what they want to hear until it actually physically happens and something's actually we know something's actually taken away from them that said it was going to be on a different console or a different platform. I'm not worried about it. So, because circling back to the last week's conversation with the Bethesda, Activision, Microsoft stuff, until something is actually taken off the table that we saw that said PlayStation or said Xbox, I'm not going to believe it. So,
yep. There's a lot of mixed messaging coming out of there, but there's enough quotes that you can pull that kind of lead you in the right direction in terms of how that goes. So yeah, join our Discord. You can see that whole discussion.
So, the first, I guess, leading. Not that I'm going to go into it too much, but the next example that we're going to really see is Elder Scrolls. Whatever they do with Elder Scrolls, in terms of the Bethesda, Microsoft, Activision, because we don't know what's going to happen with the Activision Blizzard merger because it's not done.
But we'll have news on that.
Yeah,
don't you worry.
But the Bethesda thing is done. It's been done. Yeah, and it'll be really curious what they do with the Elder Scrolls franchise.
Well, especially the quote that I pulled on Discord, Phil Spencer was very clear of if it has a legacy on other platforms, we will try our best to uphold that legacy, which in theory is just enough vague language that would make you believe Elder Scrolls has a history on PlayStation. Yeah. It will be on PlayStation. So that's going to be the true litmus test.
So
Starfield
to me, that's
count.
The next stake in the ground. Because, Starfield we knew existed, but we didn't know what it was going to be or what it wasn't going to be. And I don't like the camp of, Deathloop was probably going to be, like I said, Deathloop was probably going to be multi-platform. Sony came to them and said, hey, how much does it cost for a year of exclusivity? And they got it. Sure, it's a console exclusivity or a timed exclusive is actually what it's called. But now, God forbid that they showed like Bethesda showed Starfield to Microsoft to make them buy them. So it's and something else too, or Hi-Fi Rush and all this stuff. They probably showed it to them to increase their value. So, but. Yeah. Anyway, you can listen back to that show, and have fun with that little tangent there. So, but yeah. Other than that, like I said, everything's linked in the show notes. We live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming. You can subscribe to us on Twitch if you so choose, whether that's through Amazon and Twitch, or that's just you want to do a paid subscription. Something else that we're looking, I saw on our Discord as well that might be clarity, as Will, one of our European listeners, said that he's been using a site to generate digital funds, and you can turn those digital funds into bits.
Yeah, he's been using the Google Rewards survey thing, which most Android users have access to, and then converting that over to bits. Yeah. We're waiting to see how he's doing that exactly, but I have a vague idea of what he's doing. I just have to test that.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things that you guys can do to consider supporting us. We have people that randomly gift subs to us when we're streaming, so that's amazing, including Paige, Baddest Page as well. He's his number is astronomical, like super high. As well as other people that just kind of sometimes gift a sub or join in and drop their Prime sub when we're streaming. So consider doing that, whether it's why we're doing the show live, whether it's why we're streaming something random, or we don't even have to be live or streaming. You can just go to the site and do it. Yeah. Other than that, I'm going to throw it over to you for the news.
Yeah, Dave, we have a random assortment of news. There's actually a lot more news that I was originally going to post for us to talk about, but then I was like, it's just too much. So I just picked the best of the best, the stuff that I know would get a rise out of Dave. First one, it's a little bit of a confusing thing, or at least I was confused, but the developers behind Multiversus announced that they are done with the open beta that they've been currently running and sold multiple season passes to and have taken people's money for. And they basically said the game will go offline in June as part of the beta ending and will come back in an undisclosed time in 2024. The FAQ on their website said no refunds will be issued, but your unlocks and progress will carry over to whatever the final product of Multiversus would be. Dave, a couple weeks ago, we talked about how this hit like all-time low compared to what it was when it launched. And here we are. Dave, I know you didn't play it, but were you aware it was a beta?
I was going to say, I'm in the same camp as you were. I saw your tweet, and I was like, I don't really ever remember them saying it was a beta. And I guess I didn't play it, but you could buy stuff, correct?
Yes, you could buy characters, costumes, gold, or whatever they're.
Typically, you can't buy stuff in a beta.
No.
It had season?
It
had a battle pass
seasons.
and a season, right?
Yes, battle pass and 2 seasons with characters and all that stuff.
And then usually like the word beta is kind of like tattooed on the game somewhere, like whether like in parentheses next to the game title, in the bottom right hand corner of the game while you're playing, like all of the above. So.
I have to load it up because I don't believe I deleted it off my system, but I still can play it up until June. But I almost feel like I'm either being gaslit or some sort of Mandela effect is happening right now, where it's just like, wait, was it a beta the entire time? I remember playing a beta for this game.
Yeah.
Before it launched,
and I think that the lines are being blurred though. Like we talked about like betas and demos before, like we've gone down that rabbit hole. But like circling back to my first initial point is like I don't think that there was. And again, it's a free to play game, so there's a different market and a different avenue that's considered to be acceptable or unacceptable. But typically, the par for the course and the standard has been you can't purchase anything in a beta, and nothing from the beta carries over into the game. And those are all counterproductive to what their bullet points are in the story.
Yeah, I'm completely baffled by it. I have doubts it's going to come back, and part of my reasoning for that are twofold. One, it's a Warner Brothers Discovery owned thing, and they show in the movie and television business that they are willing to take a bath and tax write off whatever they can, which usually means killing it and burying it. And two, this game had a crazy big player base its first month, and then it dropped down. Like, was it like 98%, 99%? It was like some crazy high number to where like you can't, you already have a fragile base, a small base of players. You can't be like, all right, see you in a year and expect those people to come back. And then the other people to then be like, oh, that game that I stopped playing is back. Cool. Let's see how the players feel about spending money and then the game disappearing.
Is there hopes that like people just like the average gamer just leaves this on their hard drive and then it like it comes back and there's like a pop-up notification you can play it again? Is that what the hope is?
I would imagine they would just hope you delete it. But they said like offline will work. You can still do the training rooms offline, but that's just a practice.
Not a beta.
Test. Yeah. And there's not much of like there's no single player campaign, so you're really just playing against like AI. They said there might be there is some form of offline play you can use, but if it can't connect to the internet, you're not going to be able to like really get all the other characters, because from what I remember, they rotated the characters every couple weeks.
Not a beta.
It's just very confusing, and I just don't know if this is smart in terms of if you do plan to come back in 2024. I just don't see this being a smart move. Now,
I almost feel like you'd have to rename it.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to completely relaunch this, and they kind of put a lot behind this game when it was coming out of the closed beta.
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, hey, Gmail was in beta for 15 years, but it never went away for like a year or anything like that. You could have kept this in open beta the entire time and then been like, hey, 2024, here's 1.0, and then just worked off that. But the idea that they're just going to tell this community, like, all right, good night, we'll see you in a year, is just super baffling. Like, I don't think I've seen this sort of strategy before.
But at the same time, I haven't really seen this picked up by mainstream media, like video game media, as people questioning this. I mean, I know you have a different circle than I do, but I'm not seeing. I mean, I'm sure that there's questions around it, but I'm not seeing the, hey, like I bought something and now you're taking away my access to it for an unannounced amount of time.
Yeah, it's definitely being picked up, but it is being treated like a game that has a dying player base, to where, like, if this was something big and successful, it would actually be on, like, consistent, like, podcasts and websites every day. But because the player base was down to, like, 900 people a month, like, there's no reason for a lot of outlets to continue to cover it other than being like, yep, sucks to suck, and then move on. But I'm sure on their Reddit thread, you have some people that are pissed off that they spent money on this and it's gonna go away.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something that's weird. The other games gave refunds or gave you everything, right?
Yeah, the ones that closed permanently,
like Rumbleverse, and
I imagine refunds will come if they decide that they aren't coming back. Like,
yeah, but at that point in time, like, 13 months, 14 months later, like, do you even remember that you spent $10?
And that's what you would probably hope for.
Do you really even care? Like, do you make a claim? Like, we saw the Cyberpunk refund claim, whatever, 3 years ago. Like, that was kind of like astronomically high, but that was at least easier to prove, and that was $60. Not like, I mean, I don't know. Like, we all know it's always a risk. Like, I don't know if you spent any money or not, Michael, but like, I feel like however much time you get out of it, you got $10 out of it.
Yeah, it depends on, but the thing is, like, some people bought like very specific things for this game for certain characters and that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's not like a normal season pass sort of thing. Like you bought actual characters, and
right.
The online was dying in terms of people weren't playing, so you had access to characters but couldn't really use them because there weren't a lot of people playing. So that this just feels, I don't know, this feels icky. Like how it's going down. I hope it comes back. I just have doubts because of Warner Brothers that it will come back. Or if it does come back, like, does it stay free to play? You can't charge money for this if you go 1.0.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can't. There's only certain things you can do.
Do you go the route? I mean, if you do charge money, do you go the route of, if you played the first, our beta, that you get a Founders Edition? Like, you get the first, like, 4 seasons a year? Yeah. Okay.
There was already a Founders pack. So
again, not a beta. I didn't even know that. So.
Yeah. There was a Founders pack that you bought. They gave you access to, I think it unlocked some of the season pass, and then it also gave you certain costumes. So, like, they've already done that. So, like, they would have to do, like, the Ultra Founder, the OG Founder pack or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then just work from it there. We'll see how this plays out. This seems super weird. But RIP Multiversus until 2024. Dave, this is something that you're probably excited about, but also annoyed at how it was announced.
Yeah.
So, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ronin game was announced in the most lackluster way possible. During an interview with Polygon, Paramount's global senior vice president for games, Doug Rosen, revealed that there is a mature single-player third-person action-adventure game similar to God of War being developed for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, specifically based on the Ronin series. No studio or release window were revealed at this time. this basically was an announcement where an executive was just really happy to announce something before anything was ready.
So you're more into comic books than I am. I don't know what Ronin series is.
Okay. So it's actually a pretty good series.
I know that there is a dark version of Ninja, like a very, very dark version of Ninja Turtles comic books that exist. I am aware of that. I have never seen them. I've never looked into them. My foundation of Ninja Turtles is the late 80s cartoon.
Okay, so The Last Ronin, I think is the full title, is a very dark one where it's basically the Foot Clan won. They won. They killed Splinter and 3 turtles, and the comic follows the last Ronin, the sole surviving turtle, and I believe for like 2 or 3 issues you don't even know who that turtle is that survived. Okay. You just know that turtle is carrying all the weapons of its dead brothers. So like it's very dark, it's very brooding. It's basically just a revenge story for that remaining turtle to basically kill the Foot Clan.
Yeah. That sounds really cool because initially, like, it sounds intriguing to me because initially the first thing I think about when you talk about a Ninja Turtles game is co-op. So, like, when you see single-player experience, you're like, okay. It doesn't say single-player. I know it does say single-player. Yeah. Single-player, third-person, yeah. The third-person part, I think, is great. I think that trying to say similar to God of War is a very high-end buzzword. You have to be very careful with that.
Especially without having a studio name to drop with that.
And then, mature, like revealing that there's a game being developed. So if you're gonna say it's being developed, why don't you say who's developing it?
I think it might have been an executive. Continue.
Yeah, and I get it. So like now I almost feel like Paramount's gonna have to say something.
They
soon.
Probably were at E3 or Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest.
You mean lacking E3 based on the last like 3 or 4 tweets this week?
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is super interesting to me as a like maybe learning about more lore about the Ninja Turtles outside of the the Shredder versus the Foot versus Krang. Like that whole world lives in. I've always been super interested in some of the newer animation types of it, but I just can't. Like the Nickelodeon stuff, like I've tried watching it and I just can't, like, and I have a hard time getting into it. But at the same time, like I don't hate the movie adaptations that came out. Like, sure, they weren't great, but in terms of like staying on par or canon with what I know and understand of Ninja Turtles, like I've always been entertained by them. So this darker thing, as I get older, this darker thing does seem to appeal to me a little bit more. However, as a dad of a 7-year-old, hey, I got a new Ninja Turtles game. I want to see Dad. Like, no.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a dark story.
Yeah.
I think it's worth picking up. Like, the series is over. Like, it was just like a short run.
Yeah.
To where
I need to use my tablet some more, and I could definitely see myself doing some digital comic stuff where I can just like swipe my finger across the screen and read that stuff. I'm not going to be a physical comic book person ever. Like,
you can pick up the whole series off Amazon for like $20.
Okay.
Like in like a collection of all the issues. So it's definitely worth checking out.
This sounds cool. But right now I feel like it's as real as Redfall being on PS5.
Yeah, no, like this whole thing, like I'm sure there was someone at a studio who was just like, son of a bitch, we're working on the trailer right now. We were going to release it during Keighley's thing in the summer, but this person just got really excited doing an interview. And this isn't the first time this has happened. Mortal Kombat was basically announced last month. We didn't cover it because there was nothing to it other than during a financial call.
Yeah, that's usually where this crap comes from.
Yeah. But I wonder, like, I like that Paramount / Nickelodeon are willing to take chances with TMNT if this becomes real.
Yeah. Who's going to make this, though? Like, who's going to make this that's not owned by somebody at this moment? Like,
that's the thing. Is like
who can Paramount have make this, or who can Paramount pitch this to, or who came to Paramount and said we want to do this? Like, it's not Ubisoft. Like, so that means it's not going to be like Assassin's Creed style. It's not going to be Division style. It's,
honestly, Ubisoft is in such a mess. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, hey, we have studios available.
So 2028?
Maybe. But also, we don't know the size and scope of this. They're comparing it to God of War, but we don't know if the person meant it as in, like, tone. But saying The Last Ronin gives you the tone, but we don't know like how into games. I mean, technically,
I guess the God of War thing to me immediately attracts to the third person. So like the kind of the tight over the shoulder part,
Yeah. But do they mean? They can't mean like quality.
Right.
Like is a thing that I think people are getting excited about. Like we're not going to see a.
I mean, is this EA? Is this is this?
It would be so funny if it's PlayStation. Like if PlayStation's like
God.
Sucker Punch making.
Oh my gosh.
like it would be great. But I guarantee if it was PlayStation, this executive would not have been able to say shit in a random Polygon article, because they would have like had so much paperwork behind it. It's going to be a bummer when it's just like a random like studio that is too small of a scale to.
I mean, the only person that's recently had any experience and be a dull experience with Turtles, I mean, like, is it possible it's Platinum?
I mean, it could be. I think that would be a bummer.
I agree, because like I want Platinum's A team. Their A team seems to have been dispersed amongst their other 4 teams at this point.
I mean, their A team technically just finished Bayonetta, so like they're available. But Bayonetta took a long time to develop. How long is this going to be?
Yep.
But
that would be the only like independent third party company that I would be okay with doing a third person action game, right? Like that I can think of. I mean, Gearbox, no, I don't think so. Like, I mean, like, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head some other stuff.
I would be so pissed if it's Gearbox. Yeah. I'm sorry. I would.
No, I'm just kind of throwing like companies out there that could make that even could potentially make something that could even hold a candle next to God of War. Like,
and that's the thing. It's like
that's a big buzzword, buddy.
But if you think outside of the box of like AA studios, like the Plague Tale studio could probably pull off something not at that scope, but in terms of like they know how to make third person action games that are very cinematic looking. Gameplay wise, I don't know if they could do that do a TMNT, because that's a big ask of doing like a TMNT sort of thing, especially like.
There's a special set of kit gloves you got to use, regardless if it's the Ronin series or not. Like there's a standard. Like people freaked out in all the movies about what the turtles look like all the time. Like the cosmetic look already off the jump. Like you release a trailer and you don't like, even if you're not trying to identify what turtle is or isn't alive, but if you don't show something correct, like you're done.
Yeah. And especially specifically going to the Ronin series, it's a lot darker visually than what a lot of people are used to the Turtles being the last 20 years.
Yeah, myself included.
So it's going to be like a big sell.
This is not going to be a skateboarding pizza eating game.
Yeah, like, man, if Rocksteady weren't busy with Suicide Squad, this would be like the perfect.
I want a Turtles game from them with Batman with Arkham Combat. Like I've always wanted that.
And it sounds like this is here waiting, but they're just too busy with Suicide Squad. I'm gonna be bummed when we find out it's like a budget title or something. But it at least gives me hope that like, hey, they're at least trying to do some new stuff with the Turtles potentially,
or letting studios dabble with it and see what they can show them, I guess. And maybe this supposedly has shown enough, but I mean, okay, so I guess it's almost April, so like, do we see something about this by the 4th of July?
I see Summer Game Fest is the same week as E3, or the week E3 was supposed to be. I think you would get a teaser during that. I think that's why the executive was even talking. Like the executive probably saw like a rough cut of a trailer, and that's why they were excited to talk about this. I imagine if this is real, we will get something during Summer Game Fest, or maybe the latest we get it at like Gamescom.
Okay.
Unless it shows up at like one of the, the next Sony themed showcase or the next Xbox Direct.
Yeah.
It could pop up there. And yeah, now I'm just excited about there being some new Turtles content potentially coming. I just think this is a bummer way to.
What studios just got bought that we thought was a ridiculous amount of money? I know that's like all of the above.
Yeah.
But didn't somebody Embracer just paid something ridiculous, right? Outside of the Square Enix stuff or the Crystal Dynamic, but didn't they buy some other handful of studios? Like, is this something that's in there that we're like, okay, like I just said at the beginning of the show, similar to Bethesda showing Starfield and Hi-Fi Rush to make themselves more purchasable? Did somebody show something like this?
I can see that. I can't think of. They bought so many different companies. It's hard to pick one. But honestly, we could just pull up that pie chart of like how the industry's divided up, and we can probably figure it out. I would imagine this isn't going to be a PlayStation exclusive, Nintendo exclusive, or Xbox exclusive, because those three companies would not let the story break out this way. So it would have to be a smaller studio. Mm-hmm. Which Embracer would probably let this be announced this way. Ubisoft would probably let this be announced this way. Or it's a new studio. Like we already know Amy Hennig's working on a Marvel game, but this seems like this would probably be a perfect thing for a studio like that if they were capable of doing two games at one time. So it could just be one of those studios that are just like an offshoot of one of those acquisitions.
And the only possibility I can think of is this Naughty Dog supplemental studio that was supposedly working on the Last of Us remake that Naughty Dog then took from them. That I could see them going, like, here's the other thing like that we want you to work on potentially. I'm with you. I would love to see it be like Sucker Punch, but I don't want to see. I'm sorry, but I don't want to see something this big of a name be behind any exclusivity at all.
Yeah,
like
I honestly I wouldn't be surprised if like EA Motive. I mean, they just put out Dead Space a couple months ago. This could be like something that they end up working on. Again, we'll probably be bummed out. Who knows? By the time this comes out, this podcast comes out, we might end up getting like some studio being like, "Fuck it, we're working on it. We were hoping to show you something cool. Here's some concept art." Yeah. But yeah, more TMNT stuff. We knew this was coming because Shredder's Revenge and a Cowabunga collection just did too well for Paramount not to want to push it a little bit further, because they already drained the nostalgia well with the Cowabunga collection and Shredder's Revenge. So the only thing to do now is new content, and we're gonna get it. It'll be funny though if this actually doesn't happen and we just get like another like Platinum style Turtles game again. And we're just kind of all bummed out,
like all the Transformer games that turned into like asymmetrical like city brawlers.
Yeah, exactly. War of Monsters style thing.
Yeah. All right, so UK CMA are closer to approving the Activision Blizzard deal.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so the CMA basically came out, and they no longer feel the Xbox acquisition of Activision Blizzard will lessen the competition in the console gaming market. Apparently, the CMA were looking at bad data. And once they corrected their data or their math, they learned that Microsoft would be leaving too much money on the table to justify making Call of Duty exclusive. Therefore, they trust Microsoft will keep Call of Duty on multiple platforms. And basically, they also feel like if Sony doesn't want to sit down and sign a deal, it won't matter because Microsoft will still want to make money and will still release it regardless of if pen to paper from Sony saying please release for the next 10 years. They also said that so that hurdle's done, they're okay with it. The next thing that they want to look at is a thing that they think is going to be a trickier thing, and that is how this is going to affect the cloud gaming market, which, as you know, Dave, like Xbox has been signing deals with various cloud like PC people, making sure that like they're easy nose concerns with 10-year deals to GeForce and whatever company runs the Nintendo streaming. So, Dave, your nightmare is almost over. The math thing is kind of hilarious. It's hard to explain, but I don't know if you remember, but when this first started, I believe Microsoft said that like there was something wrong with the calculations and that they were worried that the only data CMA was looking at was the data that PlayStation provided.
Yeah.
And it kind of sounds like that might have been the case.
They're trying to backpedal a little bit and realizing, and I think this is sort of why Sony's gotten a little bit more quiet lately, because I think behind closed doors, like, people are telling Sony, like, shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah.
Like, you're complaining and you print money. You print money with exclusive stuff that you can only play on your PS4 or PS5. Like, yes, we all know Microsoft is not on the caliber that Sony is on for their first party AAA, quadruple A, whatever term you want to use, games. So Microsoft's under the, of like, we'll just buy studios that hopefully can produce somewhat close to this content, versus Sony that's grown these studios, grown Sucker Punch, grown Naughty Dog, grown Sony Santa Monica, all these studios to make great third-person action adventure games, and kudos to them that they've been able to do that and manage that properly. But at a certain point in time, like, you can't cry poor about losing something that I'm trying to say this nicely, losing something you can't produce.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious, whether you think Halo was a success or wasn't a success, for a little while there was a contender to Call of Duty. Granted, it was maybe only 21 days, but it was a contender to Call of Duty. For the record, Sony hasn't released any kind of first-person shooter contender for a day in contention with Call of Duty in a long, long time, if ever. So, like, this is, right, wrong, or indifferent, this is such similar, like I've said before, to like when Sony got the Call of Duty deal on PS4. Like, that was another thing of, like, and the game still came to Xbox, but all the marketing, all the branding was around PlayStation and Call of Duty. On top of, at the same time, the Destiny branding around it as well. All of those things helped on the heels of Uncharted and Last of Us. And it was all these combinations of stuff. So now, any advertisement we see for Call of Duty is going to end with a Game Pass logo and play it on Xbox anytime, regardless of if it's coming to PlayStation or not coming to PlayStation. Like, I know people that for a long time thought Assassin's Creed only came on Xbox because of advertising and branding. Like, and like, that's gonna happen. I gotta go get the new Xbox to play Call of Duty. Oh, like, you can play it on PlayStation. No, everything I've seen, the commercials all end in green. I gotta go get this. Like, that shit works. Like,
no, it definitely works. But if you're on PlayStation, you are the leader in the market, so it almost doesn't matter.
Correct.
To a certain extent, because it's like, hey, your friends are on PlayStation, you'll figure out that it's on PlayStation.
Right. Yeah.
I do love the idea, though, that like it took the CMA
6 months.
Year. 6 months to a year to be like, wait, you would lose how much money if you took it off PlayStation? Oh, you'd be stupid to do that. And that's basically Microsoft being like, that's what we've been trying to tell you. Yeah. Like, we are worth like $1 trillion, but we're not going to burn $1 billion every year.
Now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to stack the deck on in Xbox's favor of, like, play the beta. All the betas will be, all the early access, everything will be on Xbox, and even something to the extent of, I could see, as crazy as this sounds and as ridiculous as this sounds coming out of my mouth, because I would hate this, earn double or triple XP on Xbox, so you go through your battle pass faster.
I don't think if they do that, it's gonna be several years before they end up doing that. That's like in their
just
back
little
pocket.
like little things like to boost that. I feel like I could see the 30-day map access coming back.
I don't see them doing anything that crazy, at least for the first 10 years of this deal.
You don't see them doing exclusive map pack to Game Pass subscribers?
No, I think,
map?
No, I think you try and maximize
or a game mode?
No.
Because they did the game mode of PlayStation.
They promised, at least for 10 years with all these companies, that they would have parity between them. I'm not saying that won't happen, but 10 years from now, yes, we might start seeing that happen.
No cosmetics? No free cosmetics to Game Pass players?
No, because they said it would be the same across all platforms.
I totally see all of the above, by the way.
I think they would at least adhere to the 10-year deals regardless of if Sony signed it, just because Microsoft are going to acquire more video game companies. They're going to acquire more non-video game companies for their other businesses, and they don't want this to blow up in their face next time they're at the FTC.
I mean, regardless, in the end of it, Call of Duty will be on Game Pass, and that will increase the Game Pass subscriber number. Yeah, it's going to. Like, whether you agree with the deal or don't agree with the deal, putting Call of Duty on launch day on Game Pass is going to exponentially increase your Game Pass subscription by default.
Honestly, just putting the back catalog on Game Pass will be a big enough deal for a lot of people, of like, oh shit, I can have the last fucking 20 Call of Duty games, however many there have been, are just available, even if it's just a single player.
And like we've said all along, you log into Game Pass to download Call of Duty. Oh, that game's on there? Oh, that game's on there? Yeah. Oh, that's there too?
Will you ever play them? No, but just the idea, the comfort that it's there available to you will be enough for some people to be on it. And as they've shown with Bethesda, like, hey, Call of Duty will be on every platform. Diablo, or, you know, like Diablo will be on every platform. Call of Duty will be on every platform. If a new franchise gets made by these studios, they have no allegiance to put it on every platform. Right. You know? So we'll run into that. Like, Call of Duty will be safe forever. But say they want to break away from this, like, 4-year or 4-studio thing, they could easily have one of those studios make a new thing. Yeah,
I could totally see them saying Treyarch's the exclusive developer for Call of Duty. It's called Call of Duty, and we're doing seasonal content for the next 6 years, and that's that. Like, the same game is just for like it truly becomes a games as a service, and they just do something every 90 days, like new 0 to 100 battle pass system, 2 new maps every season. Maybe they go the operator Rainbow Six route, something like to that extent of doing that, and then having the other quote unquote Call of Duty studios make a new multiplayer first person shooter.
Yeah, and for the most part, I think we're going to see a very well behaved Microsoft and Xbox, at least for the next 10 years. Like, hey, if there's another Spyro game or a Crash Bandicoot game in the works, it'll probably still come to PlayStation. Like, because they know the hell that they would create if the next, like, Crash or Spyro is exclusive to Xbox. So I think we'll see a very well-behaved Microsoft, at least for 10 years, before they start trolling people and announcing, like, crazy stuff is exclusive. But, Dave, let's continue on with all of this acquisition news. The Japan Fair Trade Commission has approved the deal for Xbox to acquire Activision Blizzard. They basically put out a report saying, like, they feel like the deal will not lessen competition, therefore the deal is good to go, which has to have
because Sony. Xbox is irrelevant in Japan.
Yes, which we will get to the next story. U.S. Congress members want Sony investigated for anti-competitive tactics in Japan. So 4 Republicans and 6 Democrats have sent letters to Congress asking the Senate Finance Committee to investigate Sony for anti-competitive tactics, like signing exclusive deals to prevent Xbox from gaining a foothold in Japan. The numbers that Congress keep throwing out, or these Congress people keep throwing out, is that PlayStation has a 98% market share in Japan in the high-end gaming market. The main Congress people pushing for this investigation happen to be from Washington State, where Microsoft is based out of, and where Nintendo has their North American HQ. Nintendo, funny enough, is not mentioned anywhere in these letters. It's strictly focused on PlayStation. I have several thoughts about this, Dave.
Why does the U.S. Congress need to look into something that's happening in Japan?
That's my first thing, of just like, this is just a silly thing of like, what can they do? Like, they're not going to put tariffs on everything coming out of Japan.
And how much money is somebody at Microsoft paying these senators?
Yeah, and also the idea that, like, they skewed the data to not include Nintendo by saying high-end gaming market because they don't want to upset Nintendo in their home state.
Right. Who probably already also is political gains to these congressmen as well.
Yeah.
Congress people, men, women, whomever.
Yeah.
Members of Congress.
The funny thing about this is the type of thing, it is a complete like political grab for attention from these Congress people, because nothing can really be obtained from this because you're complaining about what's happening
outside
in Japan.
of your borders. Yeah.
But this is the type of Pandora's box that gets open when you start throwing mud like PlayStation has been at Microsoft about this deal, to where the thing we talked about...
You keep riding your bike in front of somebody's house, and it keeps getting squeaky and it keeps making noise, and you wake up the old man in the upstairs that's complaining because you're riding the bike in front of his house.
Yeah, you basically draw a lot of attention to this, and then you have people that are like, I want to make my name off this, or I'm just going to make your life hell because the Microsoft executive...
It's fascinating that's coming out of the Washington State as well, because like there's a huge Sony studio there, Sucker Punch. There's obviously like Microsoft's world headquarters is there. Nintendo's North American headquarters is there. Ironically enough as well, whether it's a small studio or not, considered a small studio, Bungie is there. So there's so much stuff in Seattle. So.
These Congress people have no idea that Bungie is there.
Or Sucker Punch.
Or Sucker Punch, or that they're owned by Sony. They're just
because to be fair, like Sucker Punch maybe takes up 2 floors of a substantial office building that has 18 floors in it or something.
But this is just one of those things that happens. Like this will be like this. Who knows how far this goes? Probably it goes somewhere to where it draws attention, but it probably draws enough annoying attention that if you're at Sony, you just probably look at whoever wanted to fight this deal, and you're just like, why did we do this? We knew we weren't going to win this fight, and here we are. Now we're gonna have to fucking fly a lawyer out to Congress to talk to these people, and not to be political, like, dude, we're gonna have to open up some fucking bribes.
I've only watched like memes and stuff like that, and like YouTube shorts and TikToks of whatever is or isn't going on in Congress right now about TikTok, and if that is even 1% true, it's gonna get 1,000% worse with this video game stuff.
Well, yeah, especially if it's just like, because it's basically going to be like, you're going to have to send lobbyists out to them, and it's like, all right, we're going to have to take these fucking people
It'll
to
make
dinner.
a great Netflix series, like House of Cards 2 or something like that. Like, this is probably like amazing.
Yeah. But this is all something that would be like squashed.
Could Jason Schreier just follow them with a notebook?
Hopefully. But this is definitely one of those things where it'll get squashed over a weekend.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that this is what happens when you try and open the floodgates. This is what we saw
when you cry wolf so much. Okay, let's open your door. Or you talk about your brother's bedroom being a mess. Open your door. Let me see yours.
It goes back to when Apple and Epic sued each other. At a certain point, Apple was just like, was this worth it? Because we just had to reveal so much shit.
It's great for podcasting.
Oh, it's great, beautiful for podcasting, which is why I hope this kind of goes a little further. But at the same time, I know it won't.
Like I said, there's a sports radio guy that he does ROR, root for radio, or RFR, root for radio, RFP, root for podcasting.
This is just a funny story, and I can't wait once the CMA deal closes, when it goes to the FTC in the US, how fast Sony just buckles in terms of like, we're not going to fight this, whatever, just do what you want to do, just because they don't want to have to deal with the US politics system, the political system over here, of just like how much of a circus that would end up being. Because man, Dave, I have been watching some of the TikTok stuff. It is hilarious watching this go. Like if you're PlayStation, you don't want to have to sit in front of the I was going to say idiots, but that might be too strong. You don't want to sit in front of these politicians currently, because it's just a lot of people just hoping to get attention and get clipped on the news shows in the evening.
Yep.
But yeah, that is the latest in this saga, Dave. It's almost over. It is almost over.
I'm just waiting. I was waiting for the world to burn because Xbox stopped doing the $1 Game Pass subscription. So like their whole monopoly's over, right?
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. I've just been getting 3-month subscriptions for $20 the last like couple weeks to stack your nose up.
Mine's attached to my All Access. I don't even see it.
You don't, but your All Access should be coming up soon.
Yeah, maybe.
Mine ended
I don't know.
January.
All right. So nothing was delayed except for the the approval of the Activision Xbox merger.
It both got delayed and sped up at the same time.
Yeah. So what we're planning on watching. So I'll go first because I know you are going to probably review something. I didn't really play very many games this week at all. We did watch a handful of Mandalorian. I think 3 or 4 episodes. It's been a while since, like, I think this is season 3 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's kind of like showing some more stuff about him, like Mandalorian, like where he came from. It's already taken like a little bit of it took a quick change of direction at some of the episodes I've been watching. Like where it's spent an entire episode like without the Mandalorian at all and without Grogan. So I'm trying to figure out like what's going on with that, and I'm sure it's going to tie to something else. I also started watching a little bit of Ted Lasso, that season 3. So it's losing a little bit of his comedic relief right now for me. So it had and I know that they're talking about some serious issues and stuff, and maybe they're trying to put a little bow on the series because I think it's supposed to end this season.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. I think some of the stuff I've been reading was like the third season was supposed to be the end of it, so we'll have to see how that ties in. It did kind of just, I feel like if you're up to date on the series, it did kind of just take a really serious issue that ended at season 2 and like really not talk about it very much in season 3 so far. So we'll kind of see. I'll be curious to see like where that goes, and as that moves on, and just because it's on Netflix, and because I've been saying I want to go see Creed 3. So when I wanted to see Creed 3, I watched Creed 1 and Creed 2 again. And then after I watched Creed 1 and Creed 2, I decided to watch, and most of it's been background noise or when I'm home by myself, but I've watched Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 5 within the last probably week to 10 days, 2 weeks. I didn't watch 4, partially because a lot of 4 is hashed out in Creed 2, as well as that seems to be the one that inadvertently I've watched the most of. So, and the one I've probably seen the least of was Rocky 3 with Mr. T in it. Those movies all being made prior to 1990, and now it being 2023. There's a lot of weird stuff that happened in those movies, man. But as always, like music is good, the storyline's good. Seeing how stuff it was grown and evolved, and Rocky 5's not very good. But overall, like, kind of, I really want to see Creed 3, so I kind of wanted to make sure I was like fully up to date. I've heard really good things about Creed 3. So like I said, I just wanted stuff to be kind of like front and center in my mind as best as possible, so I didn't feel like I missed something. I'm getting to the point where I used to love it, but now I'm kind of starting to get annoyed or irritated by it when you watch something and you need to watch a YouTuber like talk about it for 30 minutes after you watched it. So I'm feeling a little irritated by that. But yeah, that is that's pretty much been it for playing and watching. I still haven't started Metroid yet. I just need to start it, and for some reason whenever I buy a Switch game, that's when Owen always wants to switch. It's like inevitable. But that's it for me. So
for me it's just been one game specifically, and it is Post Void. I got a review code from the publisher of Post Void probably late last week, or I think it was the same day that we recorded. And Post Void is a first-person shooter that's kind of a throwback to like old school Doom and Wolfenstein. So saying that should give you an idea of exactly how it controls. The twist with this game is it kind of has a little bit of that like Hotline Miami acid trip vibe to it. So it's very stylish, very much feels like you're just on like a weird high as you're playing it. And the gameplay differentiates itself a couple different ways. It's procedurally generated, because of course. It has roguelike aspects to it. But the main gameplay mechanic is you carry around like a skull-shaped vial that has liquid in it. And the liquid will disappear every time you take damage, and once your vial is out of that liquid, your run is over, and you have to start all over again. To make it even trickier is the vial is always losing just a little bit of liquid, so you have to move very quickly. You kind of want to run through levels and do as much damage to enemies as possible so you can refill your skull before it completely drains. And you're just trying to speed through, be as fast as you can, make to the next level. After each level, you get to pick like a level up ability that's also randomly like shown to you. And that could be anywhere from like slowing down the bullets. I believe there's like different gun types. And then a faster reload. So there's different abilities that you can end up gaining every time you do a run, and every run is going to be completely different. There's only 11 levels in it, but for the replayability is just trying to see how fast you can make it through those 11 levels and see how many kills you can rack up, and then look at the leaderboards for it. So it's something that you're supposed to be able to play quickly multiple times over and over again, and because of the mechanics, it is very difficult to do in terms of balancing of like, okay, I am going to take damage if I just play passively and just try and run to the end of the level, and if I just try and be a killer, I'm going to also take damage, and you will have runs that just end instantly. Like, it took me several tries just to get past the first level because I was dying within like 10 seconds, because you can't just, hold back, hide, and cover or anything. You have to keep moving, keep shooting, and just try and make it to the end so you can refill your vial and move on to the next level. And the procedurally generated levels add a little bit more difficulty because you never know
another
the
wrinkle,
layout.
so you can't do a pattern.
Yeah, and it constantly changes. There's a lot of corridors, so like you don't even really have to worry too much about like lining up shots too much. Like it's very easy to line up a headshot. Like if you've played those old Doom and like Wolfenstein games, you know how those play. You're not really worrying too much about like a reticle or your gun moving around the map. Your gun's pretty stationary, so you're just moving the camera over to get your kill. This game is pretty cool in terms of like how it moves, the music, and like the style. Everyone knows that listens to this podcast, I'm a sucker for like a interesting visual game, and it definitely has that with its like the throwback vibe on top of like what this feels like a Hotline Miami acid trip. On top of it is just really cool for me. And it's also like really cheap. It's like $6 on the Switch. Came out on Switch, PS4 last week. It's on PC. I think on PC it's already down a couple dollars because it's been on PC for a while now. So it's definitely something worth picking up on.
Switch doesn't struggle to run it at all, obviously, right?
No, it doesn't seem to struggle. At least not as much as I've played it. I haven't run into any struggles. But the Switch is also...
You play primarily in handheld too, right?
Yes, yeah. I only played in handheld, so I haven't put it on a TV yet to confirm if that like messes anything up.
Okay.
And I was surprised because it's like a one of those like throwback first-person games. I didn't feel like I needed my Pro controller. Like the Joy-Cons were good enough for the type of shooter it is. Obviously, if it was like a more precise shooter, then I would probably want to use a Pro controller, but it was fine in handheld mode with the basic Joy-Cons. So I'm not using any fancy Joy-Cons or anything when I'm playing it. So based on the style, if you're into like really fast gameplay and you're into like, I don't want to say repetitive gameplay because that has like a negative connotation, but if you like, trying to like improve and, just redoing the same level over and over again to see how skilled you can make yourself, it is definitely worth checking out, especially at the price. Like it's like a nice dollar amount you're getting out of it, despite there only being 11 levels.
Less than a Subway sandwich amount. So.
Yeah, people have been asking for me to bring back, gamer footlong sandwich.
Have you seen the prices of Subway though?
Yeah, I mean, at this point. So like, this is definitely
It's like 2 subs. No, it's like 2 games for a sub.
Well, remember, specifically, it's like if you got the footlong with the meal, like the chips and the drink.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can buy like 3 of these games now.
So this is definitely like something worth checking out. I was hesitant to play it on the Switch because like it's been a thing constantly with Switch games of like indie games kind of struggling on it. But luckily this game hasn't struggled for me. But again, I'm only playing it on handheld mode. I haven't really tested it on the TV. I'll probably play it on the TV now that I'm talking about it out loud, and I'll report next week of like, oh no, this was not the best experience. No. Yeah, but as a handheld first-person shooter, this worked pretty well. And again, look at the style of this game. Like, look at the trailer, look at the screenshots. You'll definitely see that Hotline Miami vibe to how everything plays out. The only thing I will say is I wish the music was a little bit more memorable. The music's okay; it's pretty good, but it definitely I don't know what I was hoping for from the music, but based off like the trailer, the actual gameplay, the screenshots, I was kind of hoping for something that I would want to listen to outside of the game. But that is post Void if you're looking to pick up a Switch game.
Fantastic, awesome. You watch anything or?
Yeah, so me and Sarah just watched a Korean drama. I think it was a Korean drama. The Glory. It's basically like a dark revenge story. It was 1 season, 16 episodes. We ended up finishing it in about a week, watching like 2 or 3 episodes a night. Mm-hmm. It usually I'm not too into like the K-dramas, but this one was really good, and it did the thing that we kind of talked about last week with like when I said like I like when TV shows just kind of end and they don't drag on too much. This definitely felt like a show that it only needs to be 1 season. As far as I can tell, it will only be 1 season, and I think it was perfectly done in terms of giving you a story and an ending that you're satisfied with, and also you're not like hoping for more. Or hope, you're not worried about them like coming out with the season 2 and dragging this story out any further. It was a very definitive ending. Nice. So I recommend checking out The Glory if you're into revenge dramas.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Your fiance tweeted out a picture of her doing a cosplay.
Yes.
And it prompted my wife to wonder, do you do cosplays?
No, I do not do cosplays.
Did you enjoy going to your event?
Oh, we're going this weekend coming up.
Oh, okay.
That was she posted test runs. So Sarah is doing a cosplay of a Bloodborne character. I thought
you went to like a
Bloodborne.
Final Fantasy event with her though.
That is in July.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we're doing C2E2, which is in Chicago this weekend. And
yeah. I knew you've talked about C2E2 before, but I didn't. It sounded like you were. I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood what my wife was telling me, but she's like, I think Michael's going to like a Final Fantasy event with Sarah.
Yeah, so her and her friend got tickets to FanFest.
Okay.
And FanFest, it was like really hard lottery to get a ticket, and you can only buy 2 tickets to go. Her friend was able to get 2 tickets, so they're both going to FanFest. I am going to Vegas with them, but I'm not going to FanFest. I'm just basically going as security. Outside of FanFest,
okay.
Because they're both worried about being in Vegas by themselves. So I will just be hanging out at a casino and a hotel for the 2 days they're at FanFest.
Hey, we're walking from one place to the other place. Okay, I'll come meet you. I'll be there in a second.
Yeah. It's they were just worried about being in Vegas.
No, that's great. So, I mean, I think it's cool that you're traveling again. So that's awesome. So.
Yeah. So, C2E2, I'll be there the whole weekend, and then FanFest is in July. Again, I'm just going for the weekend, so I don't even know the exact days of FanFest. It's just like, okay.
You're like, I get on a plane today? Okay, cool.
Basically.
Let me pack a bag. Hey, I'll be right back.
Yeah. I'm just going to take a backpack, throw some underwear, socks in there, and be like, all right, I'm good. Let's go.
All right, so we're going to skip questions today. We didn't really get a lot of them, so please consider sending us using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can follow us on Twitter at DigitalDaysPod. You can follow Michael at TheFirstMJC. You can follow myself at GoodDaveHunt. Facebook group, Discord server are in the show notes. So please go ahead and check those out, as well as Patreon. So other than that, I hope everyone has a fantastic week and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.